May 8th, 1942, 0820 hours. Coral Sea, 325 miles northeast of Australia. Commander Takahashi Kakuichi leans forward in the cramped cockpit of his Nakajima B-5N Kate torpedo bomber. Eyes locked on the American carrier churning through the sapphire water below. His gloved hand grips the release lever. The USS Yorktown, designation CV-5, stretches 809 feet from bow to stern, her gray hull knifing through swells that catch the morning sun. Black smoke already pours from her stack, where earlier bombs have torn into her innards. Steady, Takahashi mutters into his oxygen mask. The altimeter reads 150 feet. Too low, too fast, but the American fighters are swarming like angry hornets. His wingmen are already scattered, some in the water, some simply gone. The Type 91 torpedo slung beneath his Kate weighs 1,841 pounds. It will have to count. He pulls the release. The torpedo splashes into the sea at 190 knots, its compressed air engine screaming to life underwater. Takahashi banks hard left, feeling the aircraft shudder as tracers from the carrier's 5-inch guns claw past his canopy. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. Through his headset, he hears the distant thump of detonation, metal meeting metal 15 feet below Yorktown's waterline. Inside Yorktown's hull, the explosion rips through frame 96. Seawater blasts into 3 fire rooms with the force of a collapsing dam. Fireman second-class Robert Ballard is thrown against a steam pipe that sears through his dungarees. The lights die. Emergency lanterns flicker to life, casting red shadows across compartments now tilting 7 degrees to port. Secure all watertight doors. The order crackles through sound power phones, barely audible over the roar of incoming water and the shriek of buckling steel. Damage Control Central, a cramped nerve center deep in the ship, becomes a chaos of shouted coordinates and status reports. Lieutenant Commander John Alderman, the damage control officer, traces red lines across his ship's blueprint with a grease pencil. Each line represents flooding. There are too many lines. By 0900 hours, Yorktown has taken a bomb through her flight deck, another through her smokestack, and Takahashi's torpedo. 6 boilers are offline. She's listing 11 degrees and making 5 knots. On the bridge, Captain Elliot Buckmaster watches his ship dying by degrees. His eyes are bloodshot from smoke, but his voice remains steady as he orders counter-flooding, deliberately flooding compartments on the opposite side to level the ship, a desperate trade of buoyancy for stability. Captain, we're taking on 3,000 tons per hour. Alderman reports, his voice tight. At this rate? I know what the rate is, Commander. Buckmaster's jaw sets. Keep her level. Keep her moving. By noon, Yorktown limps away from the Coral Sea at 18 knots. A miracle of damage control and sheer stubbornness. Her crew has shored wooden beams against bulkheads, stuffed mattresses into cracks, and pumped thousands of gallons overboard. The bodies of 11 men lie wrapped in canvas on the hangar deck, awaiting burial. Another 66 are wounded. As she vanishes over the horizon, Japanese reconnaissance pilots report her fate back to their carriers. Heavy damage, possibly fatal, withdrawing from combat. 4 days later, Yorktown enters Pearl Harbor. She looks like something that should be at the bottom of the sea. The torpedo hole in her hull is large enough to drive a truck through. Her flight deck is cratered. Oil slicks trail behind her like blood. On Ford Island, Navy Yard workers gather at the seawall, cigarettes forgotten in their hands as they stare at the wounded giant. Commander William M. Moffett, Pearl Harbor Navy Yard's planning officer, boards Yorktown with a clipboard and a team of inspectors. They spend 6 hours measuring, calculating, and photographing. That evening, Moffett presents his report to Admiral Chester Nimitz. "Minimum 90 days to make her combat ready, sir," Moffett says. "That's with round-the-clock shifts. More realistically, 4 to 5 months for proper repairs." Nimitz sets down the report. His eyes are the color of Pacific steel. "You have 72 hours. May 27, 1942. 2100 hours. Dry Dock 1, Pearl Harbor Navy Yard. The night shift doesn't end. It simply blurs into the day shift under arc lights so bright they turn midnight into noon. Electrician's mate Victor Hernandez steadies a plasma torch against Yorktown's hull, watching molten steel pool and harden across a seam that shouldn't exist, where new plate meets old, where patch meets wound. His goggles fog from the heat. The torch screams. Behind him, 3 more welders work the same plate from different angles, their movements choreographed like surgeons around an operating table. "Clear!" someone shouts. A crane swings overhead, lowering a 2,000-pound steel patch toward the gaping torpedo hole. The patch is cut from another ship, scrapped, salvaged, reshaped in 18 hours from blueprint to reality. 14 men guide it into position with ropes and hand signals. No one speaks unnecessarily. There isn't time for words that don't move metal. Admiral Nimitz's order has transformed Pearl Harbor into something between a shipyard and a fever dream. 1,400 workers swarm over Yorktown at any given moment. Welders, pipe fitters, electricians, carpenters, painters, riggers. The Navy has pulled men from every available ship, every shore station, every corner of the yard. Some haven't slept in 36 hours. They drink coffee from thermoses, eat sandwiches without stopping work, and piss in buckets rather than walk to the head. Inside Yorktown's engineering spaces, Chief Machinist's mate Frank Morrison crawls through a fire room that still smells of burned oil and cordite. The overhead is a tangle of new piping, some painted regulation navy gray, most steel raw copper and steel, installed too fast for aesthetics. His crew is reconnecting boiler feed lines using parts cannibalized from the destroyer USS Shaw, herself still being repaired from Pearl Harbor's own wounds. "This valve seat is cracked," Morrison calls to his second, gesturing at a steam fitting. "We need..." "Already on it, Chief." Machinist Second Class Jimmy Chen is threading a replacement before Morrison finishes the sentence. Chen's hands are bandaged from burns. He hasn't mentioned them. Topside, Lieutenant Ralph Arnold supervises flight deck repairs with a clipboard that's more grease-stained than paper. The 500-pound bomb that punched through the deck left a crater 7 feet across. His crew has filled it with concrete, topped it with steel plate, and welded it flush. The repair isn't pretty. You can see the seams, feel the slight unevenness. But an SBD Dauntless dive bomber doesn't care about pretty. It cares about 150 feet of usable runway. "Lieutenant, we've got a problem with the arresting gear." The voice belongs to aviation machinist's mate Donald Baker, who looks like he's aged 5 years in 3 days. "Cable 3, it's frayed. Needs replacing." Arnold checks his watch. 034, 2 hours on May 28th. Yorktown is scheduled to undock at 1100. "How long?" 4 hours if we can find the cable. 6 if we can't. "You have 2. Make it work." Baker nods and disappears into a supply warehouse at a run. In Damage Control Central, Lieutenant Commander Alderman hasn't left his post except to refill his coffee mug, which he's done 23 times. He's lost count. The compartment smells of sweat, cigarette smoke, and blueprint chemicals. His grease pencil diagrams have been erased and redrawn so many times the paper is wearing thin. Each system, electrical, steam, hydraulic, damage control, exists in 3 states on his blueprints: red for destroyed, yellow for temporary repair, green for operational. There's almost no green. There's a lot of yellow. Sir, the port list is corrected, reports Ensign Marcus Webb, a 22-year-old whose engineering degree from Annapolis suddenly seems worth less than instinct and improvisation. Counterflooding worked. She's reading less than 1 degree. Good. Alderman lights another cigarette from the butt of his previous one. What about watertight integrity? 70%, maybe 75%. Webb's honesty is either brave or stupid. The patches will hold in calm seas, combat conditions. He trails off. Alderman knows what he's not saying. Combat conditions will tear her apart. But combat conditions are exactly where Yorktown is going. Intelligence reports are flooding into Pearl Harbor. Japanese carriers spotted northwest of Midway, a massive fleet converging on the tiny atoll. Nimitz needs every carrier. He needs Yorktown, seaworthy or not, ready or not. May 29th, 1942. 0900 hours. Captain Buckmaster stands on Yorktown's bridge wing as tugboats push his ship away from Ford Island. The dry dock that cradled her for 72 hours releases its grip. Yorktown settles lower in the water, her patched hull groaning as it takes her full weight for the first time since Coral Sea. Buckmaster holds his breath. Everyone holds their breath. The patches hold. On the pier, Commander Moffett watches Yorktown head for open water. A welding crew still aboard her, still working as the carrier clears the harbor entrance. He's got a calculator in his hand and a sick feeling in his stomach. By every engineering standard he knows, Yorktown shouldn't survive a calm day at sea, let alone a battle. But she's moving. Against all logic, against 90 days of necessary repairs compressed into 72 hours, she's moving. What Moffett doesn't know, what no one aboard Yorktown knows, is that 1,200 miles northwest, in the operations room of the carrier Akagi, Japanese intelligence officers are briefing Admiral Nagumo on American carrier strength. Their assessment, based on reconnaissance photographs from Coral Sea and radio intercepts, is confident and precise. 2 Yorktown-class carriers damaged or sunk at Coral Sea. USS Enterprise and USS Hornet operational in the Pacific. Maximum enemy carrier strength at Midway. 2 flat tops, possibly 3, if they've rushed a repair on one of the damaged vessels. The intelligence is wrong, dead wrong. But it's the wrongness born of reasonable assumption. No one repairs a carrier that badly damaged in 72 hours. It's impossible. Yorktown steams toward Midway anyway, carrying her impossibility with her. So, here I end the video. I will continue the story in part 2. Please like and subscribe the channel.